Get ready, because this lens might blow your mind like it did mine. This is the Viltrox 85mm f1.8 STM prime lens for full-frame Sony E-mount bodies. Let's unpack that. This is a lens for Sony E-mount cameras like this one. 85mm is a popular focal length for portraits. f1.8 means we're talking low light and potentially sweet, sweet bokeh. And STM means a stepping autofocus motor, which in turn means that it's quiet. Although it is made for full-frame Sonys, it should work fine on cropped bodies. The heritage of Viltrox is LED lighting, monitors, lens adapters, and other video and photography accessories. Recently, they have started with lenses, and just a few. And this lens is one of their first autofocus lenses. And they're doing it for an extremely reasonable price. With an 85mm focal length, the f1.8 capability, and it being a prime lens, we're going to be picky here. Super picky. I want to see sharpness, color rendition, and bokeh. And the reason that we're going to be picky is that 85mm is a strong point for a number of different manufacturers, including the camera manufacturers themselves. While the Viltrox is a less expensive option than many of the others, the bottom line is that it has to deliver. Or else it isn't worth it, right? Let's look at the Viltrox up close. It looks like a lot of mirrorless prime lenses in design. The filter size is 72mm. It weighs 1.4 pounds, which is 636 grams. In comparison, Nikon's 85mm f1.8 S lens for their Z series is 1.03 pounds, or 470 grams, and the Sony 85mm f1.8 is 13 ounces, or 371 grams, which is actually getting close to half the weight of the Viltrox, albeit at a higher cost of entry. Currently in the US, the Viltrox lens is $399 and the cost of the Sony is $548. This lens has an 80 centimeter minimum focusing distance. That is over 2.5 feet, so this is not a macro lens. This may or may not come into play for you depending on the type of photography that you're doing. It is completely acceptable for use as a portrait lens or as a short telephoto for other things besides portraits. As a side note, as we were testing the lens, we found that it works with autofocus on our Nikons with our TechArt Pro Sony E to Nikon Z body adapter. Now, I'm not suggesting that you buy this lens specifically for a Nikon, but if you're like me and you have Nikon bodies and Sony bodies, this will definitely get you going on Nikon with this excellent portrait lens. And something of note is that the 85mm Viltrox plus the cost of the TechArt adapter is $648, which is less than the current price of the Nikon Z 85mm, which is $800. Again, I wouldn't get this lens exclusively for use on a Nikon body, but the Nikon Z body with its short flange distance is propelling us all forward in this golden age of using all sorts of brands mismatched between the lenses and bodies. Okay, those are all important details, but here's the bottom line, my conclusion of sorts. The way this lens autofocuses for still images and video, the way it renders the bokeh or out of focus highlights. And let's add in that we are still relatively new to Sony in general. Raymond and I would not know the difference between photos captured with this lens and photos captured with a Sony branded lens. We may be able to get down into the nitty-gritty and really examine the corners, and we might find some differences there or in the time it takes to autofocus, but to borrow a slogan, the Viltrox just works. If that is what you're looking for, this is a viable option for you. We took different types of photos with it in different situations. We mainly used it on our only Sony body, the Alpha 7R4. Everything that we expect from the camera body was put into motion with this lens. Same as when we use the Sony 24 to 70mm f2.8 or our 24mm f1.4 and the Sony 85mm f1.4 that we borrowed a while back. Its weight and length balances well with the camera body. In short, it's easy to use and it gets us the results that we want. As third-party lens manufacturers go, Viltrox is presently one of the smaller names with a modest collection of lenses to date. I will note that this 85mm is available for the Fuji X mount also. I recently reviewed the X Pro 3, and this lens would be a delight on that camera. And Viltrox having a modest collection so far, that's not a concern for us at all. We don't need the world from every manufacturer. I admire a company that is wanting to do a few things well and not try to do too much too fast and sacrifice quality as a result. And I tip my hat to Sony for sharing their specifications for communication between body and lens with third parties. Only a few camera brands actually do that, and it's better for us as consumers when brands are willing to share like that. It gives us more choices, and in my view, it helps the manufacturers that are more open with their technology. I know for me, it definitely increases my loyalty. I can go for the expensive big hitter lenses from the camera manufacturer, but for lenses where I don't want to spend as much but still have very acceptable quality, Sony helps make that happen. And I can say, having used this 85mm lens, Viltrox is delivering on that as well. In the past, I've been concerned with third-party lenses not keeping up with updates and new bodies, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. In fact, the Viltrox has a micro USB port near the mount that allows you to update it, and they've already put out an update for this lens. I actually shared a video recently showing how to do that update, which I will link to below. We're keeping it. We expect to show you results with it as often as we can, and there's no reason at all why it can't be a cornerstone of our growing Sony collection, as at this point our only third-party lens sitting among these Sony brand lenses that we have. My question for you is, what's been your experience with either Viltrox or other third-party lens manufacturers? For me, I used to see going third-party as cutting corners and going budget, but my thinking is very much changing on that, in part from hearing from viewers and fellow YouTube types, but also my experience with this lens in particular. How about yours? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching.